I can share, and I learn from my mistakes. I always look at, okay, what could I have done different here? And I know I could have done a lot of things different. But again, like you said, times have changed. And when I was growing up, certain things, my parents did the best they could with me, and I didn't parent the same way. Yes, I learned something because, of course, I appreciate how my mom was raising me. She raised me to be, very independent, and, that I was allowed to be curious, that I was allowed to be myself. Although I thought, oh my God, my mom she's so weird. But today I appreciate that she was like that. And I can see, with my son, oh my God, mom, don't come. You are like so weird. And that's the same way I was too. But I appreciate that today. And one day I know that he will appreciate that too. That, okay, my mom, she was just herself. She was not like maybe everyone else. And, when you're a teenage boy, you're like, please do not come to my school.
What story are you telling? Whether you're intentional about it or not, you have an audience and they think in story. The Doug Thompson podcast features diverse storytellers sharing their practical tips for telling the story they need others to envision and trust in order to take a new action. Here's your host, Doug Thompson.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Doug Thompson podcast. I am your host as always, Doug Thompson, and with me is this week is Helene Rennervik. She comes, we've been on this journey together. Helen, we were talking about this before we got on several years, probably 5 years. Started out with Kurt Mercandante. And we were talking about all the different people we were connected with. So this has been a conversation a long time in coming, because this is actually the first time outside of those trainings we had that we actually spoke with each other. We've conversed, through electrons and that way. And but Helen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Who is Helen? So Helen is a positive person. I'm an empathetic person. I love to meet people. Now I'm talking about my 5 strengths. So those are the 3 of them. And like you said, we have met through different people, and that's what is connecting us, because we are both positive. It doesn't mean that I go around and I laugh and this and on the clouds and so on, because some people, I had one person that I know, he said, oh my God, you're just always happy. I said, no, you're like, what's her name? This, not Alice in Wonderland. You're like Mary Poppins. But I said, okay, maybe that was bad in his point of view. For me, I always, and I think even before I knew that positivity was my strength, I think I always looked at, during my life, even when things were hard, I looked for something good. And it's actually helped me a lot through life. That has been my mindset. And nowadays, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. So I have some years that I have a wisdom, I believe. And now we talk more about mindset. Maybe when I was growing up, that word wasn't there. But of course, it's always been there, because our mind has always been with us. And I think this is something that I was raised with, that, being grateful. And when we are grateful, I think the positivity comes in there, because then we are positive about what we have and what we don't have. Not to have that enviness. We can look at someone else and admire them, but not envy. When some people say, oh, I'm so jealous. No, just say, okay, what will it take for me to have some of that? And that's what I do. I don't have to envy someone. I have to be happy with who I am. And that is hard for some people, to just accept yourself. This is what I have, and that's what I don't have. But we all have uniqueness. And that's what I believe, that we all, if we look at another person and admire them for what they have, then we can learn. And I think that's how you and I have been connected over the years. And with the people that we have met with, I think they have the same mindset.
Yeah, it's very true. All the stuff that you talked about and the positivity, again, we both have that in our top five of the Clifton strengths
Mm,
for those that aren't sort of listening to that. And again, it's not that, again, Mary Poppins or whoever, it's that we see something, and it may not be good, but you see an opportunity in things. For like even in COVID and stuff, there wasn't much what you would call good in that, but there are a lot of opportunities for us to sort of, a lot of people, they did the great resignation. They realized that the stress that they were putting themselves in the job wasn't worth it, and they've changed their life and gone on to do other things. But it gives us a point to aim at, to take an action that we can sort of go ahead and address, I think. And that's what keeps us going, and that's what there's always, maybe it's hope,
mm.
which is, hope's hard to pin, but there is a place that you can go and do something. Again, as you said, you take something good that you can act upon out of every situation.
And when you said hope, so, I called my book Hoping and Coping,
Mhm.
because hope is sometimes, oh, people are, oh, why, it just sounds, I do believe, and that's what I learned during the journey when my son got, you know, diagnosed with cancer. You can lose all the hope then, but that's actually when I learned to be in the now and that moment, because that's all we have. I mean, we talk about that, be in the moment. And that's what I learned during that time. Because as a parent, you don't expect that you will learn that your child will go before you. I had a loss of my older sister. So my mom, she lost her daughter, and that's very, very hard. But I saw how she took herself through that. And I guess I wasn't, I was only 10 at that time, so I didn't know that. But I now I realize that she didn't go on this. So yeah, of course you will grieve that you lose a child or anyone you lose. However, not to live in that. But what I learned at that moment was, I have this moment with my son. What am I going to do with it? And I didn't know, is he going to die during that time? It was very, very hard treatment. So I wanted to take all the possibilities and live that moment, and not, be, because, a child looks at their parents and they feel exactly like animals. You don't have to say anything, but they will feel. They will feel your worry. They will feel your fear. They will feel all that, and they take that upon them. And during that moment, I learned, and that's 6 years ago now, but I learned I only have that moment. Okay, now whatever I'm getting now is more time, because we only have the time that we will be given. We don't know that time, but every day what we have, take care of that. And that's what my mission is now, to share that with others. Don't take anything for granted, nothing, even during that time. So my book was that I never lost hope, and I found ways of cope during that time. And that helped me during the corona not to lose that hope, and find ways of coping. And I know a lot of people that actually has come out stronger on the other side, and that's what I did during that time too. Now I try to be the best version of myself every day, and that's what I try to do when I meet other people too, for them to go away as a little bit better version of themselves, because we have choices. I can choose this or I can choose that. That's what we do have, even during the darkest moment.
Yeah, it starts with the first choice you make when you get up. Am I going to have a good day or a bad day?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
my mood, and what's my
Mm,
motivation for the day? And you talked about a whole
mm,
lot, and you're so right with your, a parent should not lose a child. That's just, it's not, you just don't expect it. And living in what you have now, I think that is very important. But the last couple of years, you've been on fire. I've noticed you just sort of exploded with what you've done and gone out. So I think that you truly took that opportunity to see that you had another path to go. Because, in looking at your resume, you've been in corporate, you've been in sales, you've been in these other things. And it sounds like now in part of and that was all important parts to bring you to today
yes.
and preparing you for what you're at today. It's part of the
Mm,
journey, and now you're on this different plateau, writing another chapter. I assume probably going to write another book.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. Now I don't go into, I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, I'm a corporate dropout, but I learned so much during that time. And now, so I went in, when I left Philip Morris, then I went into health and fitness because my mom died from lung cancer, and I started feeling that shame that I had been part of this company. So where did I go? I didn't know it at the time, but I know it now. So I went into health and fitness and nutrition. But I have grown from that too, because again, everyone makes their choices. So whether they smoke or not smoke, that's their choice. I worked for that company, but I left it, and it was all about responsible, being there. So, I do each and every person, they have to hold themselves responsible. But I went from that. And then when Yusuf got sick, and I'm like, okay, nutrition that had been so important for me, and moving your body. I mean, I became a PT and a nutritionist and all these things. And all of a sudden, I have seen all those children that had not eaten anything wrong, that had not, they're moving in this. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, what do I do now? So my values changed. And then I thought, okay, I go to the mindset.
Yeah.
And now when I have learned the mindset, but the body is also very important, they both go hand in hand. So now it's mind, body, and soul. But a lot of people now, I mean, I have just started a new project now, because again, I am this person that loves to create. I just got back yesterday from Dubai, and I achieved an award of an outstanding entrepreneur. Because again, it's my mission. It's I'm not just, a lot of people work only for the money, but that's not for me. Yeah, if I make money, that's great, because then I can do more. But it has to be that I know my mission now. I have to do whatever I can during this time, to leave behind for my grandchildren and for the other children. This is very important for me. What do I leave behind to the coming generation? And that's what I'm working for now. So all these projects that comes into my field of knowledge now, then is it something there that align with my values? Because my values, I have defined them now, so I know them. So it's very important for me to work with that. And that's, maybe I didn't know my core values before, but now, and they could change during the time when you live too, but it's just to have that awareness. So I can do that, because I don't know how much time I have. I hope I will have long and healthy time here, but still, it is important to make that.
Do you think that your values actually changed, or you reprioritized, or sort of recognized some things, just sort of reordered them a little bit?
Yeah, I do believe. And, I mean, there's so many values out there that you could choose from. But then if I go down to, when you have to shortlist them to one, and that's faith for me. Faith is one. However, in faith, I see three. So I see honesty, trust, and love. So that's what is always very important for me, to trust myself, because we always say, okay, we have to trust someone else. But I always tell my children when they come, I trust you to trust yourself. Because again, to be an allowance of the other person, they are a human being, whether they are 2 years old or 50 years old, they are still, we have to listen to them. But I have to trust myself, and to trust the other person, and to be honest to myself and be honest to others. That is key for me. And I have that has also become more, clear to me, that is very important. I was given the word. So this award I won, the founder there, he sent me a word, because, he was writing a book of core values. So he gave me trustworthiness. And trustworthiness, yes, is trust and honest. So it really, I mean, he didn't even know, but after he had an interview with me, so he gave me that word so I could write a quote for it. And it really, yes, trustworthiness. And I'm like, where is that word coming from? And it's from trust and honesty. So it really aligned with me.
Yeah. And I think you're right. If without honesty, it's hard for people to trust you if you're not honest and stuff. And I think those are traits of maybe that value of trust, the honesty and and vulnerability too. Because
Yes.
with the vulnerability, you can admit when you're not necessarily wrong, but when you know your perspective wasn't necessarily in alignment with somebody else's or with what your values were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's wonderful. And you know, how is it, because I'm a grandparent as well, how is it being how's that different? Because I know there's a difference that I see in what's
Mm.
going on, and I want to hear your point of view of that.
So I'm a mother of 2 daughters and 2 sons. So my oldest daughter, she has 2 daughters. She has got one now, in the last one in December when I was there. For me, because they are 2 granddaughters, it's very important. So I have been working, I am a yoga instructor too. So I've been working more in my feminine energy right now. And I know it's a reason, because whatever I have carried with me, I've carried from my mother, from my grandmothers, and so on. And I wasn't aware of all these things, but when I could let that go, that's what I'm passing down to my daughters and my granddaughters, so they can be free of that.
Right.
And, I want to empower women. And that means that I don't exclude the men, and because it's a lot talk about empowering women. Yes, I want to support, because I am a woman, so I have to support. That means I don't push them down, I'm not mean to them, but it doesn't mean that I don't include the men, in the life. And as a mother, I'm responsible for how I bring my children up. I'm not responsible for what they take with them afterwards. And I'm admit to my children, I'm not always the best mother, because I'm also bad. And I can admit to them that wasn't right. With the years, I have become a little bit more wiser. I don't react, I act. And I'm not afraid of being my true self. Before, I always wanted to be perfect. Did that work? No, that didn't work. It did not work. It hindered me so much. So now I am just myself, and I'm allowing my daughter also, because she also maybe saw, okay, and she's a wonderful mother, and she chooses different things than me. And I'm so happy that she's doing that. I'm so happy to see how she's raising her daughter, my granddaughters. It's truly, you are a grandfather yourself too. You feel so proud of how your children has become, and when you see how much better they are at parenting, that is a great reward for me. Not that I'm looking at myself, oh, she should do like that. No, because she has actually realized herself what she valued from me and what she didn't. And I can learn from that, because as a parent, we don't have a handbook how we should raise our children.
Yeah. I have that discussion. My youngest daughter, who's a mother, she's got the youngest granddaughter. So I've got 7. I've got
Wow.
one
7
daughter.
kids.
No, 2 kids, 2 daughters, and one daughter has 6 kids. And
Wow.
it's just the one. So there's 3 and 3 at the oldest daughter's house. It's like we call them the horde when they come over, because there's just so much noise and pandemonium, the dogs and everything. Love them to death, but when they leave, that my wife and I are sitting there, what's that sound? Oh yeah, silence. I like that. So, but my oldest daughter thrives in that chaos. She just loves that.
Mm.
And my youngest daughter likes to, and my wife sometimes takes offense to this, but when she approaches things differently with her daughter, as you said. And she said, it's not that you did anything wrong. You did the best that you could at the time based off the information that was there. Because, the theories and stuff that Dr. Spock and all that stuff sort of.
Yes, of course.
The things we grew up with, and there is no handbook, and we do the best that we can do. My oldest daughter said she was the practice child for the youngest one. But, yeah, it's evolving. You have to be able to remove that ego.
Yeah.
That and because the world changes all the time, and adaptability is my number one strength.
Which one?
Adaptability.
Okay, yeah, that's great strength.
Goes along with one of the things you're talking about is act or react. We were talking about before, is I'm very adaptable to that. Number two is input, which is actually, it's good and bad because I like to get a lot of information, but those two combined can send me searching through the end of the internet for something because I'm just constantly, oh, there's something exciting. Right? Sort of get off track when I'm talking about it. But like this conversation just got off track. But it is a wonderful feeling, and you do have some pride in that you watch what your children are taking on it. It's a different tack than what we did, but it's a different world than
Yes.
than what we grew up in or what they were raised.
Mm.
So that's a wonderful, healthy attitude to have. And I appreciate that you are, I don't take offense that, you're focusing on women, because when I'm talking to people especially like in sales or different things, I can bring women up to a certain point but it's non-gender specific. There's certain skills and that you have. But when it comes from a perspective, I always try to point them to somebody like you or somebody else that is a woman, because you have that different perspective. You've lived in this, and I know my limits of doing that. And again, I don't take any offense to that. And so I appreciate really what you're doing is teaching them to be strong and comfortable in their own shoes, so to speak.
Yeah, you can only share with, I can share, and I learn from my mistakes. I always look at, okay, what could I have done different here? And I know I could have done a lot of things different. But again, like you said, times have changed. And when I was growing up, certain things, my parents did the best they could with me, and I didn't parent the same way. Yes, I learned something because, of course, I appreciate how my mom was raising me. She raised me to be, very independent, and, that I was allowed to be curious, that I was allowed to be myself. Although I thought, oh my God, my mom she's so weird. But today I appreciate that she was like that. And I can see, with my son, oh my God, mom, don't come. You are like so weird. And that's the same way I was too. But I appreciate that today. And one day I know that he will appreciate that too. That, okay, my mom, she was just herself. She was not like maybe everyone else. And, when you're a teenage boy, you're like, please do not come to my school.
I can say as doing that, yeah, mom, don't embarrass me. So it's funny. The biggest compliment that I guess my oldest daughter called me up out of the blue one day. This was several years ago, and she said, "Oh my God, I've become my mother." She really all that time of fighting against, and you probably had to set similar challenge with your daughters of them trying to identify themselves and not be you.
Yeah.
That she realized that all that fighting, because she had become a certain part, right? It wasn't entirely her, but there was things that she'd become, and she just said, and I said, well, you need to tell your mother that.
No, you appreciate that, and I appreciate, because when you're aware, if you're not aware of what you're doing, that's maybe a little bit dangerous. But when you start to get that awareness, okay, because then you have a choice. If you didn't like what your parent did or what your mother did, okay, you don't have to choose it. But it's nothing that you have to. And that I believe that as a leader too, you have to allow people to be themselves and be an allowance of who they are, because then it's so much easier. Everyone is unique, and we have our uniqueness, and we will flourish so much better if we allow each one to be themselves with their strength. And that's something I would appreciate, that in schools and so on and they are more and more like my granddaughter, she lives abroad, so she was in school, and they started to look at the soft skills of her, not just reading, writing, this and whatever, but she's a caring friend. I mean, that's very important. And she's listening. I mean, these are things that you need as a leader later on. And if she doesn't like something, okay, she says, no, I don't like that. Yes, that's strength, to say, no, I disagree. We can disagree to agree.
Yeah. And as long as you don't, as long as when you again, you mentioned an important thing is we can agree to disagree, but it doesn't diminish the other person. And I think unfortunately cultures they've got this dividing line now that if you believe something different than I do, then you're an evil person or you're stupid or something like that. And you don't have this middle ground where this is where all the growth sort of takes place, when you're taking things from both sides, because nobody's 100% one way or the other. We're all
No.
for this. And I think it's in that middle ground where we can have dialogue, and we can disagree about certain things, but on the whole, we agree, and we can say, okay, yeah, we can move forward and make something better. And I think some companies make this mistake of, and I call it a monoculture, in that they, one, only hire from specific universities, and which to me, you're basically, you're pulling the same flowers out of the same garden because they're all fertilized by the same professor. So you get the same mindset, you get the same think. And two, they hire people like them as opposed
Exactly.
to other things. And I think you hit upon that.
Yeah. I use the program extended disc, so it's not like Gallup, but it's same, because imagine if you hire somebody that really is required in that company. For me also, when I work with people, if they're opposite, if they have the opposite from me, we will do so much better. But again, like you said, usually you pick the one that is the same as you, but that's not necessary that you're going to move forward the best way then and get, the best results. Because like you who have adaptability, I mean, that not everyone might have that, but they have something else, and together you can become so much stronger. But it's about acceptance of the difference.
Yeah, I need an activator or something with me to get me back on task after I've done these other things. I can help calm the things. I find that in my role, I've done the best when the world is on fire, and that sort of keeping, and then being able to sort of be a little bit strategic in showing, well, here's the big picture. Here's how we can get out of this. But I don't let because of the adaptability, the current things that are going on are not as impactful. I sort of say, okay, here's what we have. Let's evaluate. What are our options to move forward, and try to keep people calm.
And it's very, when I have actually identified my strength, and I know, and now I work in them, it's so much better for my life. I feel better and I do better. I'm not analytical at all, but I have strategic. So some people might get that wrong, but number 4 is strategic, is my strength. So, but maybe I'm strategic differently than somebody who is very analytical. So, this is very important to know. I can sit down and I can write proposals and this and whatever strategically. But again, it becomes more creative than somebody who would be, very analytical. And this is so important to know about yourself. So, if it has to do with analytical things, and, okay, that's not me at all. It's better somebody else is doing it. And again, I need someone to come and say, okay, boom, 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 we do this, Helen. Okay. Because otherwise I'll go out and just create new things, ideas.
It sounds like we both need those people help. Here's some concrete steps we can take to achieve what you spelled out.
Yeah.
Because we seem to both be sort of the big picture. Here's where we're going to go. And because with the ability to sort of adapt and go on, that we can take the little changes. It's a little bit like sailing. I need to get across this lake to this other side, but the wind has a vote, right? And so as going across, you have to do some little adjustments as you're going across. It's not that you've taken your eye off where you eventually want to go. It's the steps in between which you're adapting to along the fly. And some of it's intuition. Some of it's, experience where you've been there before to know that, okay, it's going to shift again at some point in time. But it drives an analytical person that's very, driven by, we have to do A, B, C, D, drives them crazy, right?
Yeah. And I appreciate those people. And I usually, when I work with people, I need those. No, that's not how we do it. Okay. Yeah. But then again, let go of the ego, because who said that I, am the best on that? No, we will do it like that. Okay, fine.
Yeah, and I've always learned things when I found out that I've been wrong or my opinion was not quite the best. But I've also learned this important thing is not to, you mentioned just earlier, is not to try to be somebody else, somebody that I'm not. It's like you said, you went through all these different roles to find out who you were.
Mm.
A lot of it's finding out who you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
and how do you move on from there, and being okay with finding out that, yeah, okay, I wasn't the best role for me.
No,
What not to do going forward. So some of it's that, and it's like parenting. Sometimes you learn what not to do along.
exactly.
There's parallels in life. So
And then to accept, like, all your children, they are not the same. And that's the same. I usually ask when I work with CEOs and so on, just for them to relax a little bit. Okay, do you have children? Yeah. Then I said, so, if you have two children, do you parent them the same way? No, 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 no. This one is like that, and this one is that. So it's the same thing in leadership. I mean, how can we think that everyone else that is coming in there, that we have to, lead them the same way? No, we have to listen to, okay. And when we find their strength, then they will be so much more adaptable to work with you. That's what you always, because then they will get excited and let them know. Because at school even, okay, let's see what is not working. Really?
yeah, yeah. I've been in roles where managers had to do it their way, and their way was more of the here's the very specific things we have to follow, and I'm not, I'm not that follower. Because if I can see a better way, or if I can see some other things that adapt to the moment, then I'll make those changes. And that was a very frustrating time for both me and them, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
But, it is a little bit like parenting as well. There's been a lot of similarities between the two of that. So you've written one book, and what's your idea for the other? You were talking about that. You got any idea?
No. Yeah, I started 2 years ago about empowerment. Then I got involved with Empowerment by Natalie Balut. And then I'm actually writing the book as I'm living. So I will just have to, then again, I don't take notes all the time. I do, but that's not my way of writing a book. Even when I wrote this book, so I took a coach, and she went inside of me and just brought out all those events. So I think now, as I'm living and what I'm doing, because now I'm all about empowerment. So I'm writing the book now as I'm living, and it started, it has always been there, but now it's even more so. So as I'm moving forward with my life events, so I'm writing it now when I'm going to sit down and write it, because there's no right or wrong way to write a book. A lot of people can sit down and write it. For me, I'm not that person. I am a storyteller, and the story has to be discovered in the way it's being discovered.
Yeah.
But I'll take help of someone that will help me to get it out.
Yeah, I need that person. Because I'm very much the same way, is if just to sit down and write. Like somebody gave me, okay, here's a blog post you need to write, and it's like I got so stressed out because here's the deadline, and I couldn't, because I think Tima Elhaj suggested just dictate it, because you're really good at talking, and so I put it out that way, which that may be the way that I get my book out.
By the way, her and I, we were both in Dubai at the same time.
I was going to ask you about that, because I saw on a lot of Instagram posts,
and we missed each other, because she was there. I was only there for a few days, and she was there, but she also took a side trip away, and then she got back, and we really wanted to meet each other when we were there, but that will be another time. We're living on the two sides of the world, but we were there at the same time, and it was again, her and I, we met online, and she has one of her best friends here in Sweden, who I actually went and did my yoga course with, and they were she's from Australia. It's just, the world is so small. And if you just stop and see how you are connected with people.
Yeah, it is amazing. Again, our connections go back several years, and they were the reason we connected with those people, because they very much helped us along, is one thing. Kurt was very much the activator of things.
Oh yeah, he was so good. I met him personally when I went to London after I had been in training with him, and I met him there. And that was great. It was really, really great. And then I don't know how we got introduced to Lila, because I think that was the second person we got introduced to. And then to Anna Sabino.
Yeah, Anna. Yeah, so it was funny with the podcasting, how to be a guest on that. So we they luckily fate or what have you has taken us along this thing, and we've been open to taking this journey together in separate places. And sometime we'll meet on that. I did get to meet Kurt when he came in Austin, when he was going around. They spent a few weeks in Austin. And he said, you're going to be very unimpressed with my size. He looks bigger in pictures. He is. I probably made about 1.5 of him, but he's a big spirit. And Lila came down when she used to live in Dallas, and we've done some things together. So she came down to a LinkedIn local event. So things happen for a reason. If you're open to meet new people, if you're open to do new things, and in case somebody really needs your help, what's the best way to get a hold of you or learn more about you?
Well, LinkedIn is one place. I share. I'm me. A lot of people. I'm not. People are, oh, you're the same like that. I said, yeah. It is me. I'm not acting, so I am the same. I share the things that are important, not just for me, but if I share, there will be your tribe that comes to you. Some will not like me. Some will not like my voice and this and whatever, and that's okay. I was very hurt with a lot of comments and this and whatever, but that's okay. It doesn't matter, but it is important. And I do think that if you want to share your voice, you might help someone. And, that's what I think is so important, that yes, don't be afraid to share. Is it a post? Is it a video? Is it podcast? Is it, being on live? Yes, just do it. So LinkedIn is a great, way to get hold of me. Or, I'm on Instagram, not so big. I love Instagram because it's a lot of pictures and so on. And I have my website, which is helenrennervik.co. LinkedIn is probably because then you can have a conversation with me. I usually like to get on with people when I find that genuine connection. Yes, I will not hesitate to have a call, and it doesn't have to be for anything. You have no idea that call where it's going to lead to. Sometimes when I do my LinkedIn live, somebody's typing in there and then they send me a message. And I have met so many beautiful people that way, and we really connect.
Yeah, you and I are, again, we've come upon another area where we're very much alike, in that if I can help one person from my post, then it's been worth all the effort and stuff that went into it. And that's really sort of my goal, is to leave this place better. We talked about legacy with your grandchildren, is to leave the world a better place than when I found it, even if it's incremental in the big picture of things, and I've improved somebody's life who may go in then and do something else. So, so I'm so thankful that we've been on this journey together, and I look forward to more communications and more conversations to go have. Good luck with your next book, getting it out.
Yes.
I'll get my first one out some point in time. I got to have that person that extracts that out of me, these stories, I think, like you. And just in one of these days, we'll both meet Pete Tima as well. So that'll
100%. Where we are all in different places in the world, but we will meet. I'm sure.
Well, thanks.
And thank you so much for inviting me to come here and share my story.